Good evening. My name is Tony Pagliacco, and I'm running for National President of Omega Delta Phi. This is episode 7 in my video web series. The purpose of this web series is quite simple. Number one, it allows me a way to expand and communicate my platform out to our members. And second, it allows me to answer questions submitted by brothers about my campaign. Before I begin tonight, I wanted to take a moment to thank you for all of your interest and support with my campaign so far. The number of private messages I've gotten and questions submitted for these videos has been quite numerous, and it's been extremely inspiring to get that sort of engagement from other brothers, some of them who I haven't even met before, but they're showing an interest in this election, and I think that's good for us as a whole. Tonight, though, we have 2 questions submitted by 2 brothers relating on 2 different topics. Our first question is from Oscar Shapiro, and Oscar writes, "It appears that your primary communication is via social media. How are you planning to reach those who do not have social media? Since alumni are now allowed to vote for you, it is mainly alumni that do not have social media." So that's a great question. When you're doing any sort of campaign or any sort of marketing type, when you're marketing yourself, you have to focus on the very different mediums of communication that are out there to be able to get your message across and to essentially sell yourself to the people that are going to be voting for you. Now, the majority of my campaign, I would say a healthy chunk, is done on social media. And that's because it's easy for us to share videos, it's easy for us to talk on Facebook, Skype is easy to communicate with a series of brothers, Google Plus Hangouts, the whole 9 yards. Those are very easy ways to get sort of that face-to-face interaction. On that same topic, though, I'm also communicating with brothers on a traditional level, too. There's a lot of phone calls that we're setting up with individual brothers, regional directors, alumni, even some actives. We're a 15 to 20 minute phone call where I just field all the questions that they have and discuss my solutions with them. Sometimes that works just as well. I'm really interested in engaging as many brothers as possible on all levels to be able to sort of just explain where I'm coming from, explain my vision for the fraternity, and sort of show that roadmap of milestones that we can hopefully achieve within one term, but if not, set up a foundation for the next administration so they won't have to come back and do a lot of work, rework of what we've already done, reorganization. All of those things cost time and resources. So we really want to try and set ourselves up for the future right now so that we can become the organization that we were always meant to be. As we grow in size, as our organization scales across the nation, we need to be able to have the infrastructure and resources to be able to handle that. And that doesn't mean just technology. It means financially, it means scholastically, and it also means with our intake of new members as well. We need to make sure that as we're expanding, we're not only preparing these brothers to run their chapter on their own, but also to help grow the brotherhood throughout the following years. So even though social media is my main method of communication with a lot of these things, I do try and spread the word through the alumni associations. I ask them to share it via email. I ask them to share it on many other platforms. And it's going to be important that we have the different resources to appeal to all the brothers, because not everyone is on Facebook, not everyone is on LinkedIn or Twitter. But getting the message out to as many people as possible is my goal. I've told people before that I'm available anytime to talk about this campaign. I'm available anytime to talk about their concerns. I'm available to talk about the future of this brotherhood. Those are the things that are important to me, and that's why I'm running for president. Our second question tonight is from Ronald Cifuentes, and he asks, "What is your stance on the current state of our fraternity's branding/unity nationwide? Where would you like to see it by the end of your possible term as president?" Another great question. So when you're talking about any organization and their brand, you're talking about how they're perceived to the outside world. You're talking about how they're perceived on their campuses. You're talking about just general perception. Now, the one area of interest is that I know that there are marketing deliverables that have been in the works for a while. I'm not sure for how long, so I'm not going to comment on those. But we are in a definite need of having fundamental standards across our branding at all of our chapters. It really needs to be one of those areas where we need to have certain framework of rules in place to be able to say, here's what you can use our letters for, and here's what you can't use them for. Here are the colors that you can use, here are the colors that you can't use. We don't want to go so extreme that we're taking away the individuality of a chapter or a brother. But on that same token, we're also one family. We're also one brotherhood. And we need to make sure that we're sending the same consistent message across the nation and trying not to have too much individuality where it can be skewed as being misperceived. One of the things that I've always, I guess, had a problem with, and it's a small problem in the big picture of things, but I've always thought that having to get dressed up for nationals was just insane. We're not a Fortune 500 company yet. So when we show up to these things and we're all dressed out in full suits for a full day, and it's hot in the meeting room and you're sweating and your tie's crunching up in your throat, I would much rather be at a national conference and just see a sea of brothers in active shirts and khakis. That whole feeling of being unified as we roll into an event and we look the same, that Omega Delta Phi is in the house. That we are making our presence felt. That's where I like seeing the branding and unity come together. I know that there's been different versions of certain elements of our brotherhood. You could say like either hand gestures or chants or strolls or whatever. And there's each chapter maybe sometimes puts their own little twist on it. And I don't think the twist is too bad, but I think there needs to be certain elements that stay the same, because one of the beautiful things about this fraternity that I've always loved is that when I've gone from chapter to chapter, there was always certain things that were exactly the same. And by standardizing certain elements of our brotherhood, like terminology, style guides, branding, we're going to be able to keep that alive as we grow and grow into more and more chapters. Now, this is just one small part of these business processes that I talk about. Even for the company that I work with for Hasbro, we have certain things that our logo can be used on. We have certain logos for certain things, whether it's for communication or whether it's for trade shows or whether it's for even letterhead. But they're approved for certain purposes, and it's because it's our brand, it's our perception. I really feel that with more formalized branding for our fraternity across all of our chapters, we're going to be able to succeed in building the unity and morale when we have bigger events like regionals or nationals. So, when Ronald asks me where would I like to see this by the end of my term as president, I would like for us, at least in the early stages, to set some reasonable goals to say, by the end of our first year, we will achieve X, Y, Z. And those things could be as simple as having the style guide officially published and communicated to all chapters, having the branding guidelines for what can be used and where and what, have those officialized and sent out by the end of year 2 or whatever. There needs to be a timetable established, and it's unfair to make one up before you're actually elected, because you don't know your resources that you have available to you. But I definitely feel that we would make those milestones fairly early on in my term, so that we could act on them and make them a reality. A big part of making decisions like those is getting feedback from the brothers and being able to make sure that it doesn't have to be a popular decision, but it's got to be one that's respected across the brotherhood. So that's my answer to that one. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, I invite you to come to my website, tonyp2015.com. We have our event schedule up there. We have our campaign team profiles. We have our professional resume, fraternal resume, biography. I have an FAQ. There's plenty of information to go around up there that I invite you to please check out, explore, make sure that you're making the right choice before this campaign is over. And then also in that same token, I invite you to talk to the other candidates as well. I feel like this has been a fairly one-sided conversation so far, and I haven't had to debate yet. And I'm looking forward to when that comes, because you have 3 candidates right now who are very passionate about this brotherhood. They're very smart brothers, and I'm ready to put some words on the line, and let's see who's going to take this fraternity into the right direction. I personally feel that's me, and I'm sure Oscar and Latif feel it's them. But outside of that, I'm looking forward to finally getting on the debate circuit and actually conversating with my fellow candidates instead of just consistently being the only one putting a message out there. Other than that, I thank you for your time tonight. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, again, please feel free to contact me. And we'll see you next week. Thank you. Good night.